This video covers chapters 1 and 2 of the book Understanding and Using English Grammar, 4th edition by Beatty Azar and Stacey Hagan. One of the most important things that you as a teacher need to understand is that students don't have to fear learning 16 tenses to communicate. This is the core verb system for communication. That means if students understand and know how to use the simple present, the simple past, the present perfect, present continuous, and simple future, they can communicate fairly well. So in this video, we will cover simple present, present progressive, simple past, past progressive, and troublesome verbs like raise and rise, set and sit, and lay and lie. Let's start with the simple present. Now remember, every time you teach a verb tense, go over this chart. Sometimes as a teacher, we worry so much with the form because we believe students will have more problems with the form, but that's not always right, okay? So it's important to look at the form to understand the meaning of the tense and when and why it is used. So this is the form of the simple present. So you have some kind of subject. It can be a pronoun or a noun, plus the bare infinitive form like go instead of to go. When we hear bare infinitive, that means the form of the verb without the to, okay? But for he, she, and it, or a noun in the singular form such as Mary or Bob, you use the bare infinitive plus s or es. In this case, that means like watch, watches, or play, plays. So that's the form of the simple present. Now, what does the simple present mean? Well, it expresses present actions which may be true in the present, past, or future. We'll talk about this a little later. When is it used? For general statements of fact, timeless truth, habitual or everyday activities, present action, and states. And why is it used? Well, it's used anytime aspect which has some elements of present in it, no matter how small. It does not exclude past or future. You will understand a little better in a minute. Let's see some examples. The apple tastes good. In this case, it's a present situation and you're talking about a specific apple. Apples taste good. Now it's a little different. It's a general truth. All apples taste good. Shakespeare writes in blank verse. He did this in the past, but it's still relevant now. That's why although I am making reference to the past, I have to write in the simple present. In Hamlet, the opening scene takes place at night. This is also past, but the plot told in the present. Rita goes to Mexico tomorrow. Action in the future, but decision occurred in present. He uses lemon in his tea. In this case, it's a habitual action, so it's referred to a past, present, and future action because it's a habit. Now, problems students will face or may face when you teach them. A classical mistake is to omit the third person singular s or es when speaking, most of the time. I believe that writing, you're going to have minor problems, but when speaking, they might forget to pronounce that s or is sound at the end of the verb. For instance, they might say he play cards instead of he plays cards. This is a mistake that students may make, and it's very common, especially because lots of studies show that it's a feature that it's acquired later. Okay, so don't worry about it. Just gently correct them. Just understand they will make this mistake. The next topic is the present progressive. Here we go back to our pie chart and we start with the form. To form the present progressive, you need the subject plus a form of the verb to be. In the present, in this case, would be am, is, or are, plus bare infinitive, remember, is a verb without the to in front of it, plus ing attached to that verb. The present progressive expresses an action that is in progress at the moment of speaking. Every time you hear the word progressive, it's something that is happening, and you have always ing in the form. When is it used? Well, anything in the progress now, or generally in progress now, this week, month, or year. It's used to draw attention to continuity of an action rather than its completion. Let's see some examples. He's always running to his mother. So he always gives you some help. This is an adverb helping you to show that is something that always happens, always running, okay? He's working in his cellar today. In this case, it stresses continuity of an action. Susan is writing another book this year. It is only generally in progress. I live in Boston. Be careful with this one, because some students, especially depending on the native language they have, they will try to say I am living in Boston versus I live in Boston. This is the correct way, more common, okay? So a verb which is in its own meaning already expresses a continuity does not need a progressive form. That is the case of the verb to live in English. For instance, this sentence, I am living in Boston, would be perfectly accepted in Portuguese. But in English, it sounds better if you say I live in Boston. The next verb tense is the simple past. Form, you have a form of subject plus a verb ended in ed if it's a regular verb, okay, to indicate past form. One important thing is to explain to students that if it's a regular verb, that ed can have three different pronunciations, t, d, or id, as we studied in phonetics. The simple past expresses an action that began and ended at a particular time in the past. It's used with completed event, habitual past actions. And its use for remoteness excludes the present. Just one observation here. You could have just the subject and an irregular verb right here instead of following this form. Just so you know. Last week, I listened to a famous jazz trumpeter at the local community college. So here you have your now, but I listened to the jazz player in the past. I went down the street yesterday, a completed event in the past. Whenever Rocky went down the street, the people cheered. A habitual action, but in the past. Next topic, past progressive. Form, subject, verb to be in the past. Bare infinitive plus ing. Now remember, verb to be in the past would be was or were. So when do we use it? Two actions occur at the same time, but one began earlier and was in progress when the other occurred. So the one that was in progress is the one that used the past progressive. It's used with two actions in the past, one longer than the other, and it's used to specify an interruption in the longer action. Let's see some examples. I was walking down the street when it began to rain. So my longer action would be I was walking down the street. This is my longer action. And it was interrupted by the short action, it began to rain. At 8 o'clock last night, I was studying. While I was studying in one room of our apartment, my roommate was having a party in the other room. So here you have two actions and you have while, when, okay, to connect them. Finally, we have troublesome verbs. Raise versus rise, set versus sit, lay versus lie. These verbs can be trouble even for native speakers. The most important thing to understand this topic is to know what a transitive and an intransitive verb is. A transitive verb is a verb that requires a complement. For example, if I say, I bought, you are going to expect me to complete my sentence. I bought what? I bought a new car. But an intransitive verb is a verb that does not require a complement. For instance, if I say, Jesus died, period, and he rose again, okay? But I wanted to add, and he rose again, but I did not have to. So let's see some examples. The transitive is raise, raised, raised, okay? But the intransitive is rise, rose, risen. For example, Tom raised his hand. Because to raise is a transitive verb, you need to have a complement here, okay? But if I say the sun rises, period, I could add in the east, which is an adjunct, but the adjunct, remember, is something that I add if I want. I don't necessarily have to add that. Now let's see transitive set, set, set. I will set what? The book on the desk. Versus sit, set, set. I sit in the front row. I sit is done. I don't need anything else. Lay, laid, laid. I am laying what? The book on the desk. But lie does not require a complement. He is lying on his bed. On his bed would be an adjunct. Okay, so you add it because you wanted to, but you don't really have to. Well, that's all for today. Make sure you ask me questions in class if you need to review this video. Thank you.